So thank you so much indeed. First of all, thank you guys for joining this session. I hope you are safe, you had nice lunch, and thank you organizers for this camp who are turning, making huge efforts turning this digital. And I'm just sharing my screen. Let me know if it's visible.
Yep, I see it.
Great. So yeah, I'll talk about how bots add value. We integrated bots with the Drupal interfaces. How did we use the Drupal here? What and which solutions worked for the clients. I'll not generally talk about the implementation, what was the implementation and how did we do it, but largely on the case study, as in why we integrated bots. But yeah, feel free to reach me at any of these portals. I'm active both on LinkedIn and on Twitter. You could also shoot me an email on any questions if you have. So yeah. Okay. So this case study, which I'm going to talk about right now, is we've integrated several tools together, several technologies together. We've integrated Lex, we've integrated Amazon RDS, Drupal, Tableau dashboards together. Uh, this particular piece, when we integrated and delivered, was actually a huge value. It was accessible from almost everywhere, everywhere. We could. The phones are the most easily accessible things right now. We could just quickly grab them and ask questions to the bot, so it was accessible hugely. This particular solution helped upsell of the products to the 90 millions approximately, and it raised the user retention to the 42%, which was the most key metric which we were able to achieve. Okay, so going to the clients, as in for whom did we do this. uh, this is basically one of our prestigious customers, who's a Fortune 500 company. This is leading provider of cleaning solutions, both chemicals and cleaning equipments. Though these are the type of machines which they manufacture, which the cleaning company, they do not manufacture any cleaning machines, but they do equip all of these with the IoT sensor data. Now, data from all of these IoT sensors is used to analyze the and monitor that data. It is used to analyze and monitor the performance of the data. Okay, so now whatever data we are getting, we'll use that data to make dashboards, these kind of dashboards. Now with these dashboards are live dashboards of whatever data we are getting from those IoT sensors. These are interactive dashboards and provide a real-time data. Now this helped customers largely. These were very useful because they were able to, the executives were able to take the real-time data. Now in their context, they were able to see which country was using which machine, which sites had which machines, which was the overutilized machines, etc. And these dashboards were driving operational efficiency for them. What kind of system, what did they ask, what did the executives ask, why is this needed? So in this fleet tracking solution, you could remotely, on the dashboards from your computer, go ahead and check which site has the most overutilized machines, or what are your machines you managing are doing, how many machines are resting in the pool. All these kind of questions, which were difficult to track earlier, we were able to easily track them using this real-time data. Okay, so this is a snapshot from one of my project screens, wherein it clearly says that in this country, France, this was the savings which France was making. These were the number of machines wherein in the France. On the top, if you see here, these are the drop downs wherein we could change the models of the machine in a particular country. We could check if the machine is in use or machine is not in use. We could change the models, and the data would be refreshed on my dashboards. So these dashboards were like really very effective, turning very effective for the business executives inside the company. They were able to take the relevant decisions. They were very helpful in that matter of time. All of these were the Tableau dashboards. which were getting framed. All the backend computations were done at the backend. These were with the data from the IoT sensors. These were the kind of the dashboards which we were able to make. But then, we did not stop here, because because on these dashboards, there was, not everybody could access them. Why? Consider a scenario wherein there are people working at different sites. There are people who are working on sales. There are people who are working on cleaning. There are people who are working on top of the hierarchy. So everybody wasn't able to log in onto these dashboards. You need to require a Tableau logins for it. You need to set parameters, right? You need to set countries. You need to set date parameters, the machine parameters, etc. So all of those who are working on the field, manufacturing people, all other people in the strategy, were not able to use it, because again, uh, it was an effort involved. There was some parameters which would need to be set. In short, it was too much time and effort for them. So the user accessibility rate was not very high, even though we had solution in the place, but people were not very excessively using it. So now this was the time wherein, we stepped back, we thought as in what could be done. Even we have a solution. That is what was the ask of the customer, that they wanted to have a solution wherein they could track their data real time. We were able to do that. We could visualize the machines on the dashboards, but the problem was accessibility. So we stepped back. We listened to customers, as in why is it not getting accessible. We had all those problems, that the VPN login were the issues. People were not able to set the dashboards. People were not able to drill down to the information. So at Citizen, we believe that going an extra mile to value add solution increases the key revenues. That is what happens. We took a step back. We visualized, and then we thought, the chatbots could be the solution. Why? Because chatbots are accessible anywhere and everywhere. These could carry out the complex analysis. You could just ask question and they could answer them back. Hence, we placed a chatbots between dashboards and the executives. Now, executives could simply ask their query and could get the answers super fast. The bots worked on ask and answered approach. It would execute a query by performing an analysis of relevant data. Whatever data, it was accessible 24/7. The executives did not need to do any kind of parameters or login or etc., but the data was available. So, as per the Google, as per the various studies, we've seen that, the chatbots, the voice bots, etc., have been consistently rising. When we see that it's more than 1 billion, it's increasing huge time. And when we see the shift from 2019 to 2020, it's been a 200 million shift altogether. So people are very readily accepting these technologies. Why? Because they're very convenient. They're very flexible. We can ask, as many questions as we want, at our convenience, at our time, at our place. We need not to be in office premise, or we need not know to log in onto any dashboards, log in onto work desk and VPN, etc. Yeah. So it is just like, once we build it, we could consume it anywhere and everywhere. In this case, in our particular case, we used Amazon Lex to accomplish the solution. The Lex bot can be, when we say Amazon Lex, this is the chatbot service provided by the Amazon. This is again natural language processing engine, which what it does with the voice and or with the chat, it takes the intent and then analyzes it and gives us the results back. In my coming slides, I will go on and talk about it, as in how Amazon Lex works with the intents and utterances. So this right now, when we use chatbot, it could be integrated anywhere. It could be integrated on Skype, Messenger, Slack, etc. We can also extend it to the CRM platforms like Salesforce. We could generate, when we could integrate the chatbots with the Salesforce. When need arise, we could make a lead onto the CRMs as well. Okay, so these bots are not only just limited to the conversation. We could also make them like humans. We could actually teach them. We could use AI and ML algorithms to make them use predictive decisions onto it. The bots can now be used based on the data, based on the AI and ML techniques. It could be used saying, usually this quarter has most overutilized machines. Do you want to take precautions this time? Do you want to have more machines running at this particular sites? So we could continuously make bot intelligent as we go on and on. So there's a huge and vast uh, capacity there wherein we could go ahead and learn. So bots can be various types. They can be informational, they could be personalized, they could be transactional. Okay, so just to give you an example, as in what is informational what. Now when I say, I need to plan my travel, the on any other website, on any other Make My Trip or Expedia or any kind of a website, travel website, I could go on and say, or either on the my office bot, I could say, I want to plan my travel. So they could give me information back, as in what is the travel policy all about, how can I plan my travel, which is just an information based. But now when I say, when I log in onto one of the bots and say I want to plan a travel, uh, for example, on the intranet, the bot recognizes me that I am Kamal. I have been working on this organization for these couple of years. So based on my number of years of experience, I am allowed to have a travel marked from this time to this time at this hotel, etc., etc. So this becomes personalized information from the chatbots, or for the matter of the fact, from the voice bots as well. Now when we say transactional, I could actually make a bot make me a hotel bookings. I could ask a bot that I want to reserve this hotel for 2 nights at Chicago. So that becomes a transactional. That is handling complex intents. So as I was speaking, we could teach the bots as much as we can as we go throughout this journey. Yeah. Okay. So again, coming to this part, when I say, Alexa, plan my trip. I need a vacation. I'd like to trip next Friday. Now when I on this voice based, now when whatever I'm talking to a bot, I'm saying using this as an utterance. Okay. Now when I say Alexa, I'm launching the bot that I am talking to you. Now, when I say tell, this is always an invoke word, which says to open a particular application. Okay, so what it would do, it would invoke a particular intent. Now, plan my trip is actual intent which I want my bot to do. Okay, so plan my trip. I need a vacation. I'd like to take a trip. All of this is a natural language. There could be 100 people talking in 100 other ways. I could say, book my trip. I could say any other thing. So basically, this is an intent which Alexa or which the bot needs to invoke. Now, when it's invoking this plan my trip intent, this is a slot value. When do I want to book my trip? Okay, so this is just a general idea as in how bots would actually synthesize natural language into an actual figures what is required out of it. Yeah, as I've been speaking, uh, just try to come up with a bot life cycle wherein it says, how bots are useful. Now, bots help us build deep knowledge, deep understandings. They're actually available on all the channels, on phone, on laptops, on Twitter, Slack, everywhere. We could make them smarter as per time. Bot could anticipate customer needs. They could understand the language. Yeah, they could carry out the conversation with the people. Now with Amazon Connect and other platforms, we could have that system in place wherein there is voice based answers with the bots. They could actually they've actually started the contextual engagement now, and as we are doing here, we are leveraging bots for for delivering real-time transactional data. Yeah. So all of these are the characteristics of the bots, right? Okay. So bots are instant in nature. If you ask any question without any delay, they could give you an answer. The bots can be multilingual in nature. Now, it's not just English which bot understands. Bot would be able to understand many other languages. I could have the bot function in a multilingual way. It could be any language. If I'm talking to them in some other language, for example, I'm talking to them in French, the bot would change the French to English when it is discovering the intent, and pass the relevant data to the database, get an answer, and then resynthesize English to French and give us back. So without even lag. So that's very efficient here. They work on a very efficient manner. The interactions are really better. They are crisp and marked when you're talking to the bots. Uh, Again, it depends upon the interface, the kind of interfaces we are making, but we do have the planned interfaces on messengers and Slack when we want to start with. As in our case, they could be a sales booster, and they are channel agnostic. We could have them make in any platforms. We could use them for the iOS integrations, Android, or any other messengers. And yes, they're available 24/7. Okay, cool. So all of these, are what are the bots, why they are necessity, and how they could help us. I'm coming back onto my case study, as in where did we used the bot. Now this is the place, the Lex. This is the place where we used the bots here. This is the mobile application. We use mobile applications, and then we called in APIs here for all the authentication and the authorization of the system. Now, for example, when I log in into the intranet or log in onto the system, with the Drupal was very much able to authenticate the user and authorize the user that this is a person with a managerial role and has access to the data which is till regional level. This is a user based on the country level access and has data access to a country level. All of this very good part was handled by the Drupal here. uh, Once the user was authenticated, for example, I am a French user, I log in onto the system. There was username password tokens which was sent to Drupal, and the authorization roles was received. My query which I typed onto my phone, for example, what are key savings in my state, was sent to the Lex. The Lex, with the help of natural language capabilities, uh, sent a sent a request to the Lambda using APIs, and then to the databases. Lambda sends this query with the necessary parameters to Amazon Lex. The Lex recognizes the intent and triggers the Lambda function. Lambda function calls the databases to crunch the number of savings for a regional portfolio. Now, information which is requested is sent back to the user. Okay. Probably repeat this once. So user requests a query from the bot application. It is sent to Drupal with auth headers were added in the API, and the Lambda got a response with the authorization and the role of the user. The role of the user is used to decide his access on global, country, and the regional level. Now, when we get this access, Lambda helps send this query with necessary parameters to the Lex. Lex recognizes the intent, calls the database services, and sends the information back to the user. So this was the flow when we talk about the chatbot here. But how was the dashboards getting the real-time data, and how did the chatbot get the real-time data? Remember data from those devices which I talked about in the starting of my PPT. The data from all of these IoT devices are stored into the S3 bucket. Now, whenever there is a new data on the S3 bucket, the lambdas are triggered. Now, when lambdas are triggered, these are the automatic lambdas. Whenever they found any new data on the S3 bucket, this RDS gets updated automatically. So this is how the whole life cycle about the chatbot was there onto the systems when we implemented the solution. Okay. All right, I'll move on to the short demo. Sorry, Carl, are you saying something?
I do have a question if you have a moment.
Sure, tell me.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Mm-hmm.
This is really fascinating to me. I'm curious what role Drupal played. I was trying to type this out, but I didn't get to it. What role Drupal plays here in terms it's authentication and it's because you have two databases, one that Drupal uses, and then you have your Postgres database.
Yeah.
And how are they different? I mean, how are they used differently? Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Sure. So all the machine data, machine-based data, the query-based data, which is used uh, to generate the dashboards, is stored here in the RDS. However, all the user which is login, the user-based authorization, for example, you log in onto the system. So nothing has to be there are two aspects to it, Carl, basically, wherein one is about generating insights from the machine, and other is about user getting access to that data, which role has access to which data. So in this particular case, there is just user centric database. The users are only set. There's just about authorization and authentication here. Am I able to answer your question here? Okay, cool. All right, I'll move on. I'll start with a short demo, as in how this. I showed you the screens on the dashboard, Tableau dashboards, but now I'll try to show you the as in how did it happen on the. I'll probably pause here. So this is a chatbot screen. I've logged in onto the chatbot screen with my credentials here. Okay. So now this says I'm your bot, and my function is here is to help you. So the bot is basically welcoming you and telling you this is all it can do for you. Okay. So just to start with it, in this particular case, I've clicked on overutilized machines. I want to know about overutilized machines in my domain. So now, oops, sorry. Mm, yeah. So when I click on overutilized machines, it says I would like to know about overutilized machines. Now when it says overutilized machines, I'll probably quickly go a little backward here. Yeah. It says overutilized machines in France are 21, because when I'm logged in via my user, I have only access to a France data. I cannot see the global data at all. So whatever access I have, if I have a site level access, it'll tell me the overutilized machines in your site are this much. Right now it says overutilized machines in France are this much. Number of machines in France is this. Savings is this, and number of sites available are this. If you remember the dashboard screens from my previous PPT, you remember on the dashboard, I'll have to set the country screens. I'll have to add the overutilized parameters. I'll have to add the machines. Which machine do I want to see the data? But in this particular case, I was just able to click on the chatbot and I got the answers. Okay. So now when I say these are the number of machines, it is also telling me these are the top 5 sites. This is the carousel which is working. Top 5 sites which have these most overutilized machines here. Okay. So now when it says these are the number of overutilized machines, I typed on one of the sites there. It will tell me the data about that particular site. So just with the simple clicks, I'm getting to the machine level. Okay. So it says here, it is giving me the information about the site. It says below is the detailed information about the overutilized machines in this particular site. At country France, number of machines in this site is 1, savings made is this, and this is an overutilized machines. So probably it would be a good idea to have one more machine installed here. When I go with the leadership, I know that one of these my sites have overutilized machines. Now this is the machine. It has also tell me about the machine which is installed here. It is telling me about this particular machine. Okay, now it says I need details of this machine. I click here, I get the details of the machine saying the utilization of this machine is 69%. This is the average runtime. So these are the parameters basically coming from the database, which we are getting from the IoT sensors. This could be anything, not just about machines, but IoT could be, sensors could be installed in any other things. It could be refrigerators, it could be uh, anything which is going on to the system. So these are all the parameters which we are getting from the RDS databases here. Okay. So it's not just about a click. We can actually type in my response here. I could type in my query here. Now, when I say what are overutilized machines at country Turkey, okay. So let us see what response do you think we should get here? Because I'm a France user, it should not give me the response to Turkey. It will say data is not permissible. On the other hand, if I would have asked the question about any site which belongs to me, it should have given me the data. So it's not just about the click, it's as much flexible as to typing in your queries. Sorry, it went a little faster. Yeah. So when we asked the data on the Turkey, it says data is not permissible, and it has tell me that you are a French user and hence this is the data. You might want to know about it. And again, this is not just limited to the English language. I could go ahead and change the language. Here, and if you see, if I could click here, right now, we've just used 5 languages, which are most commonly used at the stakeholder premises, but we could extend it to as many languages as we could. So now that we're typing intent here just to understand in English, but we could type in any other language, and Lex would auto detect the language here and fetch you a reply and then return back to your chosen language. See, yeah, because this was a specific data to a machine, it all other data which is there could be translated to Chinese. Yeah, this was a short demo on, as in, how did we approached, how did we added chatbots along with the dashboards which helped client, with the user retention rate. The user retention rate was largely increased once this system was into the place. This actually helped the client upselling their business by huge time. It was 90 millions USD. Sorry, I'll go back. Yeah, it increased the user retention rate from 8% to 42%, and it actually automated a lot of tasks which were earlier done on the Excel. I'll probably take a pause for any questions now. In case do not have questions, I'll go on to the Lex interface, and I've made one of the test bots to showcase as in how it could work.
I have to admit, this is really fascinating.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Shall we move ahead to the Lex interface now?
Let's do it.
Sure. Okay, so I'm logged in to the Amazon services. I've just tried to make one test bot here. So this is an interface which I was talking about. I could have n number of utterances. People could talk in about as many languages as they want. I was just typing to have some kind of utterances. Booking a hotel. I want to make hotel reservations. I need a hotel. Book this much nights. So all of these are the kind of utterances. But there are certain values associated with this utterance. When we say all of these are the slots, okay, which location I want hotel in, what is the date, how many nights do I want, what is the room type. This is a very small example. Herein you could go ahead and test this out. When I say I need a hotel, or book me a hotel, so it would ask me next question instantly. What is the city? Maybe I would say Chicago. So it's I could say tomorrow. 3 nights. So it would automatically calculate. Because I wrote 3, it wasn't able to understand. I could. So it would just understand till the two, there's a setting beneath it where it could, we could change it to 5 times or 3 times or whatever it has to understand it. Let us try once again. Let's say Chicago. I want to check in at 29th March 2020. I would say 4. So again, it tells me what type of room do I want. Mm,
I think you have a question.
yeah, tell me.
Do you want me to read it to you? It says, it was, if the solution in the case study is only text-based, or is it actually voice as well? And if not, can it be extended to voice-based?
Perfect. So yes, Carl. Right now, Aman, right now we have a solution which is a chatbot based, which I just showed it to you on the demo screen. But yes, it could be certainly extended to Alexa and voice-based assistants. Right now, we're using the Amazon Web Services, so it is easily extendable to voice-based services as well. We could use voice assistants like Echo Dot, uh, to have to extend it further. And just for knowledge, Lex is a service which can further be integrated to voice bots as well. Yeah.
I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is the cost to use the Lex? Is that something that's open source, or is that something that has a payment plan of some sort?
Lex is an Amazon based, so it depends upon number of calls we make. So if we are not making any calls, the service is not being in use, and hence it's not chargeable. But when we are making in calls or invoking a calls, it is a chargeable service. So Amazon provides Lex, which is a chargeable card here in this particular case. But I would also recommend going to a Google bots, the Google based assistants, which do not have any costs based on it.
Thank you.
So all this is basically a subscription based. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So yeah, probably I could go on and on with this Lex bot. Again, have this implemented as a book a hotel, book a travel here on the Lex. This is just a test chatbot interface. What I did was here. Again, this is a make a car reservation. I've added a lambda function onto it, says, and I've added a fulfillment function here. And then when I call it from the S3 bucket, I could simply say book a car. It would return me saying, which city do you want a car in? I could say Toronto. And then it says, it's not a valid destination. I've extended it and customized the lambda here, wherein we are just supporting American cities as of now. Okay, so when I say New York here, so again, it's a spell mistake. Mm, okay,
It
so
doesn't
this
want you to go there right now.
yeah, that's what. So I could say, when I say today, it will not let me. It says you could schedule at least one day in advance. When I say tomorrow, it would let me book it. When I could say 2 days after tomorrow. So I could extend it as much as I want. What should be the driver's age? It should be, just some people want to choose drivers. Economy. So it's asking me what type of car would you want to rent. So these are the kinds of slots which we could continuously increase our algorithm to. Now it says, okay, with all of these parameters, this is the amount it would take. Shall I go ahead with the reservations or not? If I say yes, it would pass me a lead. It would send me a fulfillment where, with the help of APIs, I could send it back to the user. Or if I could make a lead onto my onto my whatever platform it is, it could be anything. all my intranet-based platforms. Yeah, I think that's it. Again, questions or yeah.
I just want to thank you. This was really fascinating to get an insight into the world of using bots.
Yep, yep. Thanks, Carol. Thanks. Glad to hear that.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, we can go ahead and wrap up a couple minutes early. I really appreciate your contributing to our webcamp here. This is a wonderful presentation. I'm looking forward to sharing it with some folks I know that are interested in this kind of work.
Perfect.
This is, I really appreciate this. Thank you. I actually, I have a question on your presentation. You used the video and you paused it. And did you create that video, or is that one that somebody else has created that you guys use for
Oh, that's an
demonstration? Or?
no, that's an actual client side product video. I've just cropped it, chopped it. We've made it ourselves, to have that delivered inside this webcam. So yeah, that's the actual product kind of a thing which we made.
That's a really cool way to do a demonstration, because you don't have to worry about it failing and in a live demo, and you can move through it, and you don't have to do screenshots of every step of the way. I like the way that you did that.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Thank
Well,
you.
awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the next